All right. It tells me that I have actually gone live, which is wonderful. So I am here live on Facebook and YouTube at my sewing room. I have to tell you, it's a construction zone out there. We have people flexing their muscles, moving chairs, setting up tables. We have a big event tomorrow. It is the Trentex presentation by Rob. And if you haven't gotten yourself into that already, give us a call at the store and enroll. It is From Concept to Quilt, the story of fabric. And it is $15 plus tax. There's door prizes, fabric, oh, tons. So if you haven't already done so, get yourself enrolled in that class for tomorrow. So anyways, as I say, construction is going on. And construction again today as well, as we are presenting today on Wacky Wednesday, binding two ways, part 2, the other way. I'm very biased about this particular way. Anyways, because yesterday it was my way, today it's the other way, and I'm biased. All right, I just want to do a few shout outs for you. So as my cohorts are working away, I'm going to get started. Are you ready? All right, so Wacky Wednesday. So stop, you are entering the construction zone now. This is part 2 of the technique class for this month on this wonderful Wacky Wednesday, Facebook and YouTube. Hello and thank you for stopping in. Special shout out to some people who were live with me yesterday, which was really cool. We had Donna, Teresa W, Ruth C, Sandy A, Maureen C, Tina B, Ann A, Carol A, Ann L, Emily G-K, Allison F-M, and she was very kind. She said she really loved my energy, which was really sweet of her. Lana T, Vicky S, Grandma Vicky, Donna, Carol G, Glenda, Mike, and Peanut. And I also had a special person stop by today to say that they watched Twisted Tuesday Part 1. Was Carol Ann, and I think it's in my pocket. Hang on, there's always notes in my pocket. It says, Carol Ann said, you know, there's another way to bind. So there's my way and many other ways, but this one was called the pocket bind. And I had never heard of it, so I have to go and investigate. She suggested Crafty Quilter would be a great place to start and look. Anyways, thank you to Carol Ann for that about binding. But yesterday, as you know, it was my way. And I hope everybody had fun just learning how to just bind square and rectangular objects. And I see some of my friends have already signed in. That's wonderful. I see Ruth C, Ann S, Ann L, Tina B, Nancy, Vicky, Grandma S. Anyways, thank you again for joining in for part 2. So let's just go back and recap. It's like doing a go backwards. If you remember, in February, we made pot holders. So we did chenille pot holders, starting of course with a base, the Insel Bright, and then your other little base that made the little quilt bottom. Then we took 3 layers of our fabric, whatever fabric you want, and we layered them. We made them all about 8.5 inches square. You can make your pot holders any size you like. You can make them any shape you like. Once you're done the layering though, you do the sewing. And let's just do a quick close-up of that sewing again. If you can see it, it's all done in diagonals across the fabric. I did it a 1/4 inch apart all the way along from one end to the other, starting in the middle and working outward. And there, it's all beautiful and stitched. Then what we did, of course, we got out our chenille cutter, and this is really cool. There's also besides this one, there's also the clover cutter as well. And you just make sure you lift up the 3 layers of fabric you put on, leaving the base, which is the green. Am I in the right hole? Yeah, I think I am. And then you just stroke it the length, and you're just cutting between the seams, and that makes your chenille. And then of course, once you've got it all chenilled and everything, we take this little brush and we give it a scrape. Ooh, toothbrush, nail brush, wash it, whatever. Don't recommend washing it before we get it actually stitched with the binding, but there you go. So yesterday at this point, we left it square, or we made it square. We used the bias ruler and made it totally square. So and then originally in the show I showed you, we made it a circle. So I brought out my fancy circle maker, which is one of my plates from the kitchen. I used just a plain felt pen, circled it to mark the circle. Ta-da! And then I took my big scissors and we cut along that circle to make the shape of a circle. Now you can make whatever shapes you like. You can make it oval, circular, square, rectangular, whatever you like. And you just have to cut the shape. All right. So that's how we made these lovely chenille pot holders. And yesterday we bound the square one with my way. Today we're doing the other way, which is bias. Because we have a curve, we want our binding to actually stretch and go with us rather than fight us because it doesn't have any stretch to it. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do next. Now let's just, I think we need a joke though before we get started. Are you ready for a construction joke? Good. You know, I really thought I had a good construction joke. Unfortunately, there was absolutely no buildup. I really am going to get that laugh track. All right, that was funny. Back to the top, we want to show you how to cut bias binding. So we need it to be stretchy, so we are going to cut it on the bias, which means we're going to take our material, we're going to trim off our selvages, we're going to lay it out flat. There it is. Now, constructing the binding, how many strips are you going to need? I'm not sure. If you could find the circumference of your hoop and measure around, then you would know approximately how many inches, because its binding is based on how many inches around we have to go. So let's just going to make 2 or 3 strips and see how that gets us. All right. Okay, so the trick to this is to get it on the bias, which is the 45 degree. Now, if you have a ruler like I have, it does mark the 45. So can you see the 45? You can see the 60, the 45. Yeah, if we line that up along the base of our fabric, we'll be able to make sure we get a 45. Okay, so bear with me. I've only made bias binding a couple of times. So they said to start with the 45 at the bottom. Okay, so there's my 45. I need more room, they say, more room at the end. Okay, there's my 45 degree angle. We want to get along the bottom of that thing. There's the 45, move it over. There's 45 right there. There's the straight line to measure that angle. It now makes a right angle going that way. So we know that this is 45 degrees. So you're matching it up on the lines for the 45, and you just take off a little piece. And this is just now a scrap for your scrap bag. Yeah, don't throw it away, because I've got some things next week to do with scraps, so don't throw it away. Now, as I talked about binding yesterday, some people do their binding at 1 3/4, some at 2, some at 2 1/2, some at 3. I find for this project 2 1/2 was just right. It's my favorite width of binding. So of course that was my way, right? All right, so let's make some binding. 2.5 inches is what I am going to make. So what I do now is I leave that nice straight angle there, and I find 2.5 inches on my ruler, and we stroke it up. There we go. Now you'll see that these guys have little tails on them, but don't worry, we'll do something with them eventually. Don't worry. We just want to keep cutting 2.5-inch strips on that angle of 45 degrees. So we just keep moving up the fabric, cutting up the pieces until you have as many as you need. So finding out how much bias binding you need is always tricky. And I was talking to somebody about that today, and I guess it was Loanne. And she said that what she did was she just, okay, here's my piece, here's my object. You know, if I lay it down, how much of it do I get around? Okay, so maybe 2-3 strips should get us around the pot holder, no problem. Okay, so let's cut a couple more of our bias strips. So we're keeping that as our straight ruler edge, putting it on the 2.5 inches, and then we are cutting 2.5-inch strips, just like I did yesterday for the straight binding, but now this stuff has got a stretch. Let's have a look. Ooh, it stretches, and that's what we need to get around curved edges. And so what we do now, I think I have enough of my binding. So we're going to take our binding pieces back to the top again. I'm going to take the 2 longest ones I've got, and I would probably put 3 for this project, but I'll tell you a little secret. I already made some binding to use. So now there are methods. I was looking on internet. You can leave the little tags on and cut them off afterwards. I like to make this as much like my other bindings as possible. So I found the little end of the corner. I measured it to make sure it's nice and even, 2.5, and just stroke it off. So now it looks just like regular binding. So we'll do that to this end as well. So let's find that corner. That right there is the corner. We're going to measure that and make sure that's even, 2.5. Good. Stroke it. So now that we've got one piece, let's do a second one, because I want to show you again how we put those guys together. We talked about it yesterday, but let's see it one more time, and let's see how good Sandy can be. We laugh. Okay. To tell you, went to the game last night, my friend Betty and I. You know, it's a good thing we like each other's company, because I got to say that the game wasn't that thrilling. I'm sure you were, if you were an Avalanche fan, you were very happy. All right, here's our pieces of binding, and if you'll remember yesterday, we lay it right side up, we take the other piece and we turn it right side down. And we measure nice and close, make it even along those 2 edges. So it makes a nice little L shape there. And of course, I like to pin it. Some people eyeball it and away they go. I'm a little bit more nervous, so I'm going to just pin this, but I'm pinning it so that my pins are easy to pull out and I don't run over them with my sewing machine, which is always a possibility, right? All right, more pins. Okay, that holds them in place. Now I've put my marker down, so just bear with me while I grab my marker. There's always so much stuff you have to bring from home when you're doing projects, and I try to remember everything and tell everybody what we need. So there we are. Now I have a wash away marker. You can use one of the air erase markers. As long as you're marking the back side, it really doesn't matter what you're using. You could use a pencil, as long as it doesn't go see-through. I'm marking the corner where I want it to start, and there's the end, so I'm marking that end. That's where I want it to go. So let's draw that 45-degree angle. And if you remember when we talked about angles on this, we do it on the 45 because it is the strongest connection. If you do it square on butt end, it's not as strong. It has too much pull on it. This way, it's nice and easy to pull and it doesn't rip. Okay, all right, we got our 45. And if you had more binding strips, you just keep adding them on and on till you have a big long thing ready to sew. All right, let's go to our sewing machine. And today, again, I have that really cute Stellaire. It's from Brother. You could use your 1/4 inch piecing foot. You could use your walking foot. I'm going to use whatever they left me from class today, which looks like it's just a regular #1 or reverse pattern feed foot. All right, close up. Here we go. I started with a little leader ender because I want it to sew right up to where I put my edge in. All right, here we go. Starting that little machine up, or not. There we go. And there it's feeding in. Now I want to try and keep it straight. There's a little notch on the foot right there. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little notch. So I want that to run down my blue line, and that's how I can keep it straight. All right, another little guy comes at the end here. Sew off and onto that. All right, and trim it off at the back here. Take off the little tag. All right, so let's go have a look. Okay, so here is our binding sewn on the 45. We'll take out our pins. Now there's our marker line, so we can measure 1/4 inch on that. And we will trim our binding. And you just keep going. If you have more and more and more strips, you just keep doing it, adding it on. All right, before we move on, we need to now make sure that we press this. And if you'll remember, we press, let's see if I can get my little board over here so you can see. We're going to press the seam first. And press it down. Thank you to Gwen, Quilting First Class. Always press to set your seam. And she quizzed me that one day and she said, do you know the difference between ironing and pressing? This is pressing. This is ironing. So I kind of learned. So my quilting is a little pressed and a little ironed. So, okay, there it is. That's a nice bias. Okay, let's press that down. Good. All right. So now we have one continuous piece of binding. And if you remember, we put it wrong sides together. And you got to be careful. This has got a bit of a stretch to it now. And you just want to iron press it. I usually end up ironing. And we just press it in a long, long piece. So the right sides will be on the outside. All right, so we'll just keep going, but you see how it's stretched? Ooh. That's pretty fun. All right, now that we've got it all pressed and beautiful, oh my goodness, it's all pressed and beautiful. Look at that. We got it all ready. And you can probably tell that I probably made way more than what I actually need, but look at how stretchy it is. It's beautiful. Okay, so let's take one of our round pot holders. This is where the fun starts. Okay, here we go. Get rid of all our junk, because we aren't going to need it for a little bit. Just going to unplug that iron so I don't burn myself anymore. Okay, so now remember, you got to leave a tail so that we can do our 45 to put it together. So, and if you were going to do this machine-wise, you'd start this on the back and sew it. And when you were done, then you would take it to the front and you'd sew down along that nice pretty edge. Okay, we're doing it my way, the bias my way, because I did do it once, doing it the other way, and I'll show you in a minute how all those turned out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start and I'm going to leave a big tail, right? And I'm just, sometimes wonder clips would be great for this. Okay, and I didn't bring them, but we're just going to ease this around the corners. And sometimes for this one, I think it's just as easy to sew it and as you go. All right, should we give it a try? All right, here we go. All right, now I don't need a leader ender on this one. Such fancy buttons on this machine. All right, put up. All right, so now I'm going to start this stitch 1/4 inch. So I'll do my best on the 1/4 inch because I don't have the 1/4 inch foot, but we'll give it our best go. I just want to show you how it to go and how it kind of wrinkles up as you go along. Okay, make sure I got enough out the end there. Okay, and I think I'll turn it down just a little so you can see it progressing along here as we go around the corners. We want to kind of keep it, you know, don't pull it too hard, but you'll see it spagging up and wrinkling. That's perfect. Oh gosh, that's slow. Maybe I should speed it up a little. Okay, but not too fast or I'll get ahead of myself. Keeping that nice edge of the binding along the edge of the pot holder. It was kind of fun doing this. Makes you feel kind of dotty. And we just keep going around and around. Well, this is so much fun. Sorry guys, I could sing you songs or tell jokes while we're doing this, but if I did that, then I wouldn't concentrate on how I was putting this on and we'd have a big mess. So anyways, I hope everybody's having a wonderful week. We had a bit of a cold snap this morning, but I'm sure it'll get back to being beautiful spring-like. We could sure use a little warmth and maybe just a little rain. I noticed that is driving, that's really dusty out there. Okay, just keep going around the big circle. She'll be coming around the corner when she comes. I guess it should be, she'll be coming around the bend when she comes. That's right, here we come. She'll be riding 6 white horses. How about just a crazy little Mazda? All right, here we go. Round and around and around and around and around. Round and around and around. Just want to keep that going round on this pot holder. And I probably take a little more time and be a little more careful. But I noticed yesterday that I went to 42 minutes and I do apologize. That's a long time to sit and listen to me. All right, so here we go. Around the corner. Okay, now we got to leave enough room that I can cut these guys. I'm just going to back up a little so I don't rip my stitches out too badly. Okay, cut. Press her foot up. Look at that. How automatic every button's. So pretty. Okay, let's go back over here and have a little, have a little look. You'll see it kind of made a little horseshoey, rimply thing. Doesn't that look cool? That's the way it's supposed to look because this is kind of, we stretched it a little bit here and now we're going to bend it around the curve. All right, here we go. Let's do a little looking to see how this is going to turn out. So bias. So I'm going to pull it out around the corner. Oh, look at that. Isn't that pretty? It's working. It's working. All right. And it just like that, it just pulls out around that corner. Obviously, I didn't sew quite so well in that one spot. But look at that. It just piled over there like nobody's business. Just bend so nicely. So bias binding is really cool for that. Okay, and then of course we'll do our 45 and then I will hand stitch this completely down. So other people will have machine. So once they get there, they're going to machine it but they'll have done it from the other side. So you have a nice stitch on the front and you hide it in the back. Kind of match your thread in the back. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Now again, we have to make this little 45. If you have any other ideas of how to do it, great. You could, some of them do that, bring it together and make cute loop or something on the top. But But yes, we do that 45. So let's cut this off. Let's just take a spot here because we're going to have lots of this. And of course we need it to match up. Okay, we want it to get out there around the corner, match up. Now, I'm probably a little tight here. You want to measure that 2.5 inches out this way, right? So where's my little ruler? Okay, guess I should have brought bigger, less large rulers. Okay, so there's where the join is. So we want to go 2.5. So that's brilliant. Try it this way, Sandy, so that you can mark it. Okay, so that's that. Sure to butt it up against each other and mark our 2.5 inches. Now I mark 2.5 inches because that's the width of my binding, and you would be marking something different if you did it 3 inches or 2.25 or whatever it is that you would like to do your binding at. I just find it's very full. It's very good if you do it at about 2.5, and we're just going to cut that off. Okay. You're going to then take your binding as it comes this way. And boy, I should have backed off and left myself a lot more room, shouldn't I? And then you're going to take this piece that's coming this way, and you put the right sides together, and you do that lovely 45 diameter seam. And when you're done, it all pops into each other. Anyways, that would be my story. So let me show you what it looks like finished. Now, when I did this one, I put a little hanger on it so that you can hang it up. But let's look at it close up. Are you ready? There it is, close up. You see it? So this one was machine done. So if you look at the back, I sewed it on here first. Boy, hairy little thing, isn't it? And then I flipped it over, and you can just see the machine stitching along the edge. I did it in red, and I did it on green in the back, and that would be the machine finish on it. So you can do it by machine, or you can do it by hand. I have one other little one. When I first started, and we still do it to this day, we have staff challenges. So Anne picks a project, or Dawn picks a project, or somebody suggests a project, and we all take that project and do something different with it. And of course, we did pot holders, which was a lot of fun. And we had to make them oval so that we could experience bias binding and know how it works. So I want to show you my creation. And I got to tell you, everybody did something different. Everybody used different fabric. It was so much fun. But I put a little hanger on it, sewn at the back. It went underneath the binding, and put a little button, because of course I used sunflower pattern. And I put a little bee on it. But this is a hot pot mat you could use. You just put your hand in and grab whatever. And that's him. And we did it all the fronts pre-quilted, and then we put a strip of bias binding in here. Then we sandwiched them and put the bias binding around the outside. So it was so much fun. So that's how you do bias binding. So it's my other way, and I'm very biased about it. All right, and I'm sure that you can find out there are lots of wonderful YouTube videos and everything. I know that Anne made one about binding unusual shapes. I know Chelsea, Maureen, and Leo are all doing ones on bias binding, how to create continuous bias binding. There's lots of them. So you'll find those videos on Facebook under mysewingroom.ca, or on YouTube, mysewingroom.ca, DOTCA. Anyways, so you'll find those videos out there if you need some help furthering along your binding efforts. All right, I have another joke for you. What do construction workers do at the parties? Why, they raise the roof. Woo, 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 woo. All right, I know, construction jokes. But hey, someone's got to tell you those crazy things. All right. So anyways, that was a lot of fun. So that was Twisted Tuesday, Wacky Wednesday, Binding Two Ways, part 1 and 2. My way, which is straight binding, and the other way, which was bias binding. So if you missed yesterday's Tuesday show, you can go back and have a look at how I did the binding the other way. All right, that's so exciting. Now, couple of announcements. As I said at the very, very beginning, tomorrow is the big From Concept to Quilt, the Story of Fabric by Rob at Trentex. It's a presentation. It starts tomorrow, March 14th. It goes from 10:30 to noon. It's $15 plus tax. So phone and register, get yourself involved. It's lots of fun. There are door prizes. Oh, fun stuff. And of course, you know, people will be there. Anyways, all right, a couple more things coming up this week. That was Thursday. Friday, if you have some of those unfinished projects that you started here under with us, with our teachers, and you just need to work on stuff, bring it in on Friday, or if it can be any other project Friday, because Friday there's no teacher. It's unfinished Friday. It goes from 10 to 4. It's $10 plus tax. So call and register, save yourself a spot. Then on Saturday this week, we have Supervised Saturday, the 16th, that's Saturday, 10 to 4. It's $50, but there will be a teacher present. So if you have any kind of project that you've started from us, bring it in. You need to register and let us know what that project is, because we need to let the teacher know so they have some idea of what they're going to meet in class. Anyways, so that's Saturday. And it's going to be a beautiful weekend, I heard. Maybe this little snow flurry and cold weather is over. It's supposed to be nice this weekend. So keep in mind, on March 22nd, 10:30 in the morning, we're doing Studio Live. So if you want to come in and be live in our audience, great. If you want to just Zoom, then please register and let us know. It's free of charge either way. We have a maximum of 10 in store, as many as you like Zooming. We haven't quite confirmed yet that will be replaying for Freaky Fridays Facebook, so we'll see. Anyways, that sounds like fun. So thank you ever so much for all your comments, your likes, your shares, your loves, and your ideas. Those are really important. I like passing those on to everybody. And I really appreciate you just hanging in there with me for what? Another 32 minutes of talk. Anyways, that is all I have for today. And it's been a pleasure. And watch out for the construction. It's going to start out there soon. So be aware. All right, everyone, have a great rest of the week, and I will catch you next Wednesday for Wacky Wednesday at my sewing room.